Hello everyone and welcome to Boundless Dentistry. In this video we'll talk about the second most common odontogenic tumor that is found in the oral cavity, and that is ameloblastoma. In this video we'll talk about the clinical features of ameloblastoma, histological features of ameloblastoma, radiographical features, investigations, and then finally we'll talk about the treatment plan that is available in order to treat ameloblastoma. So let's get started. Firstly, talking about some basic facts about ameloblastoma. Ameloblastoma is a benign tumor. There are basically two kinds of tumors. Either the tumor is benign or the tumor is malignant. A benign tumor is not invasive and it does not invade adjacent structures, and it also doesn't spread to other parts of the body. On the other hand, malignant tumor is very invasive and it also spreads to other parts of the body as well. Ameloblastoma is a benign tumor, but it is aggressive in nature. Aggressive in the sense that it invades local tissues. It doesn't spread to other parts of the body. The growth in this neoplasm is basically uncontrolled and abnormal as compared to normal tissues of the body. The origin of ameloblastoma is from odontogenic tissues, that is teeth forming tissues, and there is no mesenchyme present in the histological features of ameloblastoma. Very rarely there is malignant transformation is ameloblastoma. Now, ameloblastoma is unicentric, it is non-functional. Clinically, it is persistent and it is very slowly growing, and there are certain phases of growth. Like, for example, in certain months of time, it grows, then for a couple of weeks, it doesn't, and then this process continues. It is the most second common odontogenic tumor that is found in the oral cavity. Now there are two ways to classify ameloblastoma. Either there is clinical classification or there is histological classification. In clinical classification we have central, which is intraosseous ameloblastoma. Then we have conventional, also called as multicystic or solid. This is the most common ameloblastoma that is encountered in clinical OPDs. Third is peripheral, which is extraosseous ameloblastoma, which is not that common, and malignant ameloblastoma, which is the most rarest among these four, which is present over here. Now the second way to classify ameloblastoma is histologically. Histologically we have follicular type, which is the most common among these six. Then we have plexiform, acanthomatous, granular cell, basal cell, and finally desmoplastic. So these are the two ways in which we can classify ameloblastoma on the basis of either clinically or histologically. Now moving on towards the etiology of ameloblastoma, firstly it is commonly associated with impacted teeth and specifically third molars. Now it is also associated with traumatic episodes, for example extractions, cystectomy, and fractures. Moreover, it is also associated with infections, in some people associated with vitamin deficiency, and rarely viral infections as well. Now moving on towards clinical features of ameloblastoma. In this clinical picture you can see the patient is roughly around 30 years old, and talking about the age, most commonly ameloblastoma is associated between the age of 20 to 50 years old, but it can range from as low as 10 years old to as old as 90 years old. There is no gender specification. It occurs equally in males and females. Moreover, talking about the site most preferably occurring ameloblastoma, it is most commonly present in mandible as compared to the maxilla, which you can also see in this clinical picture. Furthermore, in mandible, it most commonly occurs in the posterior region, mainly the ramus and the third molar area. There, ameloblastoma is more common. Now, most commonly, the ameloblastoma is either solid type or it is unicystic type. When the patient presents to us in our OPD, mostly patient is associated with no pain at all, or sometimes it is associated with pain when there is nerve impingement. And ameloblastoma is mostly discovered in routine examination. The patient does not know whether they have ameloblastoma or not, or even when there is some swelling present or not. The patient most commonly presents to us when there is severe or large swelling that is clinically very visible. It is slow growing. It grows around many years, or at least few years. It is also painless. It is hard when you palpate it. It is also non-tender. It is most commonly ovoid in shape as it enlarges, as you can see in this clinical picture as well. The further clinical features that can be appreciated in a patient suspectedly suffering from ameloblastoma, there is facial asymmetry, which is very much clinically visible. And if we talk about intraoral features, as you can see in this clinical picture, these teeth that are present, they are sufficiently mobile and sometimes they exfoliate as well. If a patient is wearing denture, as this enlargement is occurring, the denture will now become ill-fitting. It will most probably come out. When patient chews on this enlargement, there is pain, and obviously there is difficulty in chewing. Sometimes ulcerations can also occur over here, mostly because of traumatic episodes that are occurring because of the presence of this lesion. The size of ameloblastoma can be as low as 1 centimeter and it can be as large as 16 centimeter, and as you can see in this clinical picture, it is also spreading locally. It is not invading other parts of the body. The bone that is involved in ameloblastoma, there is mostly expansion of the bone as compared to destruction of the bone. Now, if we talk about the difference between ameloblastoma of mandible and maxilla, the maxillary ameloblastoma is more dangerous, and the reason for it being more dangerous is that it causes nasal obstruction, protosis of eye. There are also vital structures which are may be damaged when maxillary ameloblastoma occurs, most commonly maxillary sinus. It may also involve the cranial base, and obviously there is facial distortion. Now, talking about the histological types of ameloblastoma, firstly we'll talk about follicular ameloblastoma. Follicular ameloblastoma is the most common histological type of ameloblastoma. As you can see in this histological slide, there are islands of these tumor cells. So these islands give you a rough idea that this is or this may be a follicular ameloblastoma. Also, you can see periphery, there are cuboidal or columnar cells that are present, and if you talk about the nuclei, they are polarized. Moreover, there is cyst formation also present in this, and it is commonly found in follicular ameloblastoma. Surrounding these cells, you can see there are stellate reticulum-like cells which are surrounded by peripheral columnar cells, and these are the main and important histological features in order to identify follicular ameloblastoma. Next is plexiform ameloblastoma. In this histological picture, you can see the cells are arranged in irregular masses, and moreover there are strands which are present. You can see these strands are present and these strands are interconnecting. Talking about cells, there are columnar cells which are present over here, and like follicular ameloblastoma, stellate reticulum cells are also present over here. Now, in plexiform ameloblastoma, cystic degeneration is most common as compared to other histological variants of ameloblastoma. So, these are the histological features which can help you in achieving a diagnosis of plexiform ameloblastoma. Third is acanthomatous ameloblastoma. Although these are rare as compared to plexiform or follicular ameloblastoma, but they can be present in a patient. The first and important feature of acanthomatous ameloblastoma is squamous metaplasia in place of stellate reticulum cells. You can see these are the previously stellate reticulum cells which are present, and now there is squamous metaplasia going on in this variant of ameloblastoma. There are also keratin formation which can be seen, and sometimes keratin pearls may be present, which are a common feature of squamous cell carcinoma. Granular cell ameloblastoma, like acanthomatous ameloblastoma, is rare but sometimes can be encountered in a patient. Talking about its histological features, there is coarse, eosinophilic, and granular cytoplasm, as you can see in this histological picture as well. Now you can also see these purple things you can see which are visible over here. This is hyperchromatism, which is also a feature of granular cell ameloblastoma. And lastly, there is reverse polarity of the nuclei. Now, basal cell ameloblastoma is the most rare type of ameloblastoma among the other five variants of ameloblastoma. It basically resembles basal cell carcinoma of skin. Like I've told you before, it is the most rarest histological type of ameloblastoma. It is also hyperchromatic, as you can see in this histological picture, and there are no peripheral palisading cells which can be easily appreciated in this histological picture. Now the last type of histological type of ameloblastoma is desmoplastic ameloblastoma, which is also rare. Now in this picture you can see there is hypocellularity. Very few cells are visible as compared to other variants of ameloblastoma. There is also hyalinized tissue which you can see over here, and there are these thin strands which you can appreciate in this histological picture, and there are cords of epithelium present. So these features may give you an idea that desmoplastic ameloblastoma is present in this particular patient. Now moving on towards the radiographical features of ameloblastoma, in this two radiographical pictures you can see there is a patient which is maybe suspectedly suffering from ameloblastoma. Now these radiographical features will help us in achieving our definitive diagnosis. Now ameloblastoma can be either unilocular or it can be multilocular. Most commonly multilocular type is more common in patients, more than 50%. Now, if a patient has multilocular radiolucency in the mandible, as you can see in this picture, it can be either referred to as soap bubble appearance or honeycomb appearance. Now, moreover, the lesion that is present over here, if teeth are also present, there is root resorption going on, and sometimes teeth displacement can also occur, as we have seen previously in the clinical picture. Also, ameloblastoma may also be associated with unerupted tooth as well. Now, if we talk about expansion of bone, most commonly the expansion of bone occurs in buccolingual direction more. Now, if we talk specifically about radiographical features of unicystic type of ameloblastoma, the radiolucency is well defined. As you can see in this radiographical picture as well, the radiolucency is well defined, and it also mimics dentigerous cyst, because radiographically we cannot differentiate between unicystic ameloblastoma and dentigerous cyst. We need a biopsy specimen for histological confirmation of our diagnosis, and it is also associated with impacted third molars. A less common variant of ameloblastoma is peripheral ameloblastoma. It is rare, but sometimes it develops in soft tissues associated with the teeth. As you can see in this clinical pictures, this is a nodule-like lesion which you can see, and this in this case is peripheral ameloblastoma. It most commonly occurs in young adults, and it is also more common in mandible as compared to maxilla, and clinically you can see it resembles like a nodule. Other than performing biopsy and radiographs, there are some more additional investigations which, although less commonly performed but can be used, includes CT scan, which is also helpful, but MRI and ultrasound are very less commonly used for patients suffering from ameloblastoma, because radiographs, biopsy and CT scan, they all give a proper and definitive diagnosis that a patient is suffering or is not suffering from ameloblastoma. Now, when we are suspecting that a patient may or may not suffer from ameloblastoma, there is a list of differential diagnoses that has to be kept in mind before reaching a definitive diagnosis. Now, the lesion that most commonly resemble ameloblastoma includes ameloblastic fibroma, odontogenic myxoma, central giant cell granuloma, dentigerous cyst, and finally odontogenic keratocyst. These are the 5 lesions that most commonly resemble ameloblastoma, and before we go for biopsy, these are the differential diagnoses which we have to keep in mind before we move further. Now, lastly, talking about the different treatment options that are available for a patient suffering from ameloblastoma. We talked about the clinical features, then we talked about histological features, then we talked about radiographical features, then we talked about additional investigation that can be helpful in reaching a diagnosis of ameloblastoma, and now we'll talk about the treatment options that are available. Firstly, there is simple excision or enucleation, which is the most least frequently used treatment option. As you can see in this clinical picture, simply the lesion is scooped out and the margins are closed. Now in this case, the chances of recurrence are highest, and simply enucleation or excision is most commonly indicated in peripheral ameloblastoma only. The second treatment option that is available is enucleation and curettage. In this case, simply the lesion is scooped out, which is enucleation, and then by the help of curette, we simply scrape out the surrounding walls in order to remove all of the linings of the ameloblastoma. Now, one problem associated with enucleation and curettage is that their cure rate is only 10%. Around 90% there are chances that the lesion or ameloblastoma will occur again. Some complications that are associated with enucleation and curettage is there is seeding in lungs. Second, there may be malignant transformation in performing this particular procedure, and inadequate curettage because of inadequate visibility and access to the lesion. So, if we perform this procedure, it is not possible to entirely remove ameloblastoma and decrease the chances of recurrence. The third treatment option and beneficial treatment option for the patient is en bloc resection, which is also known as marginal resection. In this case, as you can see in this diagram, a tumor is removed along with some margin of uninvolved bone. Usually it is around 1 to 2 centimeter of bone is removed along with this lesion, but one particular emphasis is placed on this, that the jaw continuity is maintained. It is not disrupted as compared to segmental resection. In en bloc resection, the jaw continuity is maintained. It is also frequently used, and the recurrence rate as compared to previous procedure, here it is very low. So it is a very beneficial treatment option for the patient. The fourth and most commonly used treatment option for patients suffering from ameloblastoma is segmental resection. In this case, a segment of maxilla or mandible, wherever the ameloblastoma is present, the entire segment of maxilla mandible is removed. It includes hemimaxillectomy, which is removing half of the maxilla, and hemimandibulectomy, which is removal of half of the mandible. It is the most commonly used treatment option, and among other procedures, recurrence rate here it is extremely low. But sometimes when lesions are greater than 5 centimeter, there are minor chances that ameloblastoma may recur. As you can see in this diagram, there is a lesion which was present over here. So using segmental resection, the entire lesion or this bone is removed, but the jaw continuity is disrupted in this case. So reconstruction will be required in future. Now, lastly, talking about least commonly used treatment options, which are chemotherapy and radiotherapy. Chemotherapy is mostly used for patients where non-surgical approach is taken, and some commonly used drugs include cisplatin, cyclophosphamide, and methotrexate. Radiotherapy generally is not used for patients suffering from ameloblastoma because ameloblastoma is generally radio resistant. Radiotherapy doesn't work that good in ameloblastoma. Radiotherapy is also used when there is recurrent disease in a patient, and lastly in those patients where surgery is not possible and it is even contraindicated. So in this video we talked about in detail of ameloblastoma, starting off with some basic facts about ameloblastoma, then moving on towards etiology, then clinical features of a patient suffering from ameloblastoma. Then we talked about histological variants of specific ameloblastoma and their specific identifying histological features. Then we talked about the radiographical features, additional investigations that can be used. We talked about differential diagnosis, and then finally we talked about treatment options that are available for a patient suffering from ameloblastoma. So I hope this video was useful for you, and if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe and press the bell icon. Thank you for watching this video. See you next time.